You are hungry. Not the kind of hunger you felt after skipping lunch. Not the kind that a snack fixes. This is the hunger that has been living inside your body for 3 days. A low, constant pressure behind your ribs that colors everything you see. You move carefully through the valley, low to the ground, listening. The grass is still black from the fire that swept through 2 nights ago. The air still carries it, that particular smell. Char, ash, and something else. Something you have never smelled before. You stop, but your body is doing something your instincts haven't caught up to yet. Your mouth is filling with saliva, and you don't know why. Here's what most people assume about this moment. They assume it was a decision, a thought. Some ancestor of yours looked at a burnt animal and reasoned logically, clearly. That fire must have done something to the meat, and that something might be useful. That's not what happened. What happened was messier, slower, more animal than intellectual. What happened was your body leading and your mind following by hundreds of thousands of years. The evidence of controlled fire use goes back nearly 1,000,000 years. A cave in South Africa called Wonderwerk holds ash and burned bone fragments that old. Your ancestors were living with fire long before they understood it. But there is a gap, a vast, almost incomprehensible gap, between living next to fire and understanding that fire transforms food. You have been sitting next to flames for longer than your species has had its current shape, warming yourself, scaring away predators, sitting in the orange light and not yet knowing that the fire you have been using for heat is also doing something to reality itself. Here is the part that should unsettle you. Your body is not built for raw food. That sounds wrong. It sounds like the kind of thing that gets argued about online. But the science is serious and the conclusion is strange. Your digestive system, shorter than a chimpanzee's, less acidic, is not the body of an animal designed to eat things uncooked. Harvard primatologist Richard Wrangham spent decades building this case. His argument is that cooking did not simply improve human nutrition. Cooking restructured human biology over deep time. Your gut shrank because heat was doing some of the work it used to do. Your jaw reduced because you were no longer grinding through raw food for hours a day. The energy your body saved from digestion flowed upward, into your brain. The brain you are using right now, processing these words, running your memories, generating your emotions, is partly a product of fire. You are not just an animal that discovered cooking. You are an animal that cooking helped create. Back in the valley, back to the smell. You approach the animal slowly. You have eaten things that fires have touched before. Not often, but it has happened. After brush fires in the dry season, you found creatures caught at the edges. You ate them. You do not have words for what you noticed, but your body noticed. It was easier to chew. The texture was different, softer where raw would have required effort. And the energy, you felt it more quickly, more completely, as if the food had already been partially processed before it reached you. The paleontological record confirms this rhythm. Burned animal bones appear at ancient sites across Africa and Europe, some nearly 2 million years old, not the neat remnants of a campfire, the chaotic aftermath of natural events, but eaten, the marrow accessed, the nutrition extracted. Your ancestors were eating fire-touched food long before anyone lit a fire on purpose. The preference came first, the understanding came later, the capability came last. Right now, standing at the edge of this burnt valley, you are somewhere in the middle of that sequence. You prefer this, you do not yet fully understand why, and you cannot yet make it happen yourself. You reach down, you eat. Now consider what comes next. Nothing for a very long time. The gap between first tasting cooked food and first deliberately cooking food may be hundreds of thousands of years. That number doesn't land correctly when you read it, so hold it for a moment. Hundreds of thousands of years of eating fire-touched food after natural events. Hundreds of thousands of years of the body registering the preference and not yet making the leap. Because the leap is not a small one. To deliberately cook, you need controlled fire. Fire you can carry, sustain, manage. But you also need something harder. You need to understand that an action you take right now will produce a result you cannot yet see. You place the food near the flame. You wait, the food changes, then you eat. That sequence, action, invisible process, future result, requires forward planning, causal reasoning, the ability to hold a mental model of something that doesn't exist yet and work toward it. These are not simple operations. These are among the most sophisticated things a mind can do. For hundreds of thousands of years, you had the craving. You did not yet have the cognition. You wanted something you could not yet make. And the world kept waiting for you to figure it out. Around 400,000 years ago, something shifts in the record. Sites in Israel, in China, in southern Africa. Hearths begin to appear. Not just isolated burning events, but the same location used repeatedly. Fire being returned to. Fire being maintained. Someone put something near a fire on purpose and came back and did it again. Imagine the night it first happened with full intention. You have fire, you have meat, and something connects in the dark, in the silence, in the part of your mind that is just beginning to be capable of abstraction. Not, this one piece of meat got hot and became easier to eat. But heat changes food, and I can apply heat. That generalization, extracting a universal principle from a specific observation, is the foundational move of every science that has ever existed. Every technology, every act of engineering. Every time a human looked at the world and thought, I can use this pattern, it happened first around a fire, in the dark, before language, before any of what we call civilization. You figured it out, sitting in the dirt, in the smoke, watching something change. And when you understood it, really understood it, the world was never the same again. Here's what you did not expect. Cooking is slow. You cannot eat and run. You have to prepare, tend, wait. And waiting, in a group, around warmth, in the particular quality of firelight, does something to social animals. It gathers them. It holds them in place. It gives them time they did not have before. The campfire was not just where you cooked. It was the first place you sat with other people and had nothing urgent to do. The first dinner table. And around that table, with full stomachs and idle hands and an increasingly capable brain, something else began. You started talking, not just signaling, not just warning calls and territorial sounds. Something longer, something that pointed at things that weren't present. Things that had happened, things that might happen. Stories. There is a hypothesis still being tested, still being argued. That firelight itself was cognitively different, that the unpredictable flicker, the living quality of flame, may have stimulated associative thinking in ways that static environments didn't. The data cannot confirm it completely. But something happened around those fires, because what comes after, art, ritual, burial, language, begins to appear in the record not long after the hearths do. You cooked a meal, and somehow, eventually, that led to everything else. There is something the fossil record will never give us, the face of the first person who understood it, really understood it, not as a reflex, not as a lucky accident, but as a principle they could apply. We don't know if it was a moment or a slow accumulation. We don't know if the understanding arrived in a single night, watching food transform in a fire they hadn't meant to start, or whether it built gradually across years of small observations. We don't know if they told anyone. We don't know if anyone believed them. What we know is that they crossed something, a threshold that no living thing had crossed before them. They looked at the physical world and perceived not just a thing, but a process, not just a meal, but a method. They were the first person to look at raw reality and think, I can change this. Every engineer, every scientist, every chef, every person who has ever taken something as it was and made it into something better. They are downstream of that one moment, that one mind, that one fire, and we will never know their name. Tonight, you might light a stove or a grill or a campfire if you're somewhere that allows it. And when you do, when you watch the raw things begin to change, when the smell shifts, when the texture transforms, something in your nervous system will respond. Something older than your name, older than your language, older than the country you were born in. You will feel something that is not quite hunger and not quite wonder. A recognition, a sense of rightness that you cannot fully explain. That feeling is not metaphorical. It is biological. It is the residue of hundreds of thousands of years of ancestors who stood exactly where you are standing in front of the same element, feeling the same pull. You are not watching fire cook food. You are participating in the oldest ritual your species has. Every thought you have ever had, every question, every dream, every moment of grief or love or sudden inexplicable awe runs on energy that fire made available. Your intelligence is downstream of a flame. Your consciousness is partly purchased by heat. And somewhere at the very beginning of that chain is you, hungry, standing at the edge of a burnt valley, reaching towards something strange, not yet knowing that you are about to change everything.